You have chosen to start the mission in the air. Please increase the throttle lever and use trim to level the aircraft and navigate towards waypoint B4, where the weapon's range is located. Maintain 600 to 700 kilometers per hour and 500 meters altitude until you enter the range. Press spacebar once you have trimmed the aircraft. When the Viggen was designed, it was considered that gun armament on fighter aircraft was an obsolete weapon, superseded by missiles, so the design did not include that weapon. When the Vietnam War proved that gun armament was still needed, the Swedish Air Force decided to supplement both the Viggen and the Saab SK-60 with external gun pods. The Aachen M55 gun pod was designed by the French Matra and used surplus 30mm Aden guns, taken out of retired J-34 Hawker Hunter and J-32 Saab Lansen. Only one gun was mounted on each pod, and its large size was dictated by the requirement of holding inside the used ammo cases, instead of dropping them to the ground. The gun pod was expected to be used against unprotected troops, helicopters, transport aircraft, light naval targets, as well as other vehicles and equipment on the ground. It was retired from service on 2005. On DCS, the simulated gun pod can only use high explosive ammunition, while the real Viggen could also use armor-piercing rounds. The Aachen M55 gun pod specifications are listed on the text at right. Press space bar to continue. For this training mission, we will use a weapons range at Mud Lake, which employs assets created by the 476th Virtual Fighter Group, plus a weapons range script developed by the user Sirabob, which will allow you to gauge your strafing accuracy. To succeed, you will have to strafe 3 gun targets available on the southern side of the range. Perform at least 3 passes over the strafing pits, 1 for each target. You can access the attack statistics calling up the F10 option of the communications menu. You can make as many passes as you want, while you still have ammunition left. Perform the passes on an east to west general direction, so that the mission logic can keep track of them. Press space bar to begin the training. As this is our first weapons training mission, let's first explain some of the basics of using weapons on the Viggen. The Viggen was designed to use only one type of air-to-ground ordnance per sortie, but there are 2 exceptions to the rule. The Aachen M55 gun pod can be combined with the RB-75 missile, or with the RB-05 missile. Also, any valid loadout can be combined with infrared air-to-air missiles. If you take an invalid loadout of non-compatible weapons, you won't be able to fire or drop them. The current store's status can be displayed on the data panel by placing the INUT selector in position UT, output, and the data selector in position TACT. Try it now. Each digit of the data display represent one weapon station, from left to right. The currently selected station, if any, has its digit flashing. A 0 represents an empty station, while a 1 represents a ready station. Any dashes present would indicate that the weapon has an error and is unusable. Press spacebar to continue. Viggen flight plans created on the DCS mission editor, like the one of this mission, have only normal waypoints. The gunnery range is located at waypoint B4. We need to convert it into a target point before using weapons against it. The procedure for doing so is as follows. 1. Set the data selector to TACT. We already have it on that position. 2. Set the INUT switch to input, as we will be entering a value. 3. Enter the code 9 on the keypad. 4. Press the waypoint button that actually corresponds to a target point. On this case, press B4, the destination indicator will change into M4. 5. Set the INUT switch back to output. 6. Set the data selector back to act pause. To reverse a target point, back into a normal waypoint, the procedure is the same, but use code 0 instead of 9. This would turn M4 back into B4. Press spacebar to continue. The radar will range the distance to the target. If it's less than 7 kilometers, radar ranging is preferable than triangulation due to its increased accuracy and greater flexibility with varying terrain elevation. Radar ranging is indicated by the fin appearing in the HUD above the sight dot. The radar will range to the spot that the sight reticule is aiming at. In mode AUKN air to ground, the radar range may be used before trigger unsafe, assuming the bank angle is less than 45 degrees. If radar ranging is used, no radar display is shown in the central indicator for the duration of its use. Radar ranging will not activate if attacking with an excessively shallow angle, less than 5 degrees from the horizon. Press spacebar to continue. The AUKN gun pods and the Iraq rocket pods share the same sighting mechanics, and their employment can be considered more or less identical, with the exception of the shorter range of the gun pods. The gun pod is loaded with 150 high explosive rounds per gun. The gun can be used against aircraft, soft targets, and unarmed vehicles, but is mostly ineffective against armored vehicles. AUKN gun pod preparation checklist. 1. Weapon selector, set to attack. 2. Release mode switch, set to Siri, up. 3. Set the HUD to its lower position, to ensure visibility of the attack symbology. 4. Set HUD mode to low altitude, by setting the Slav SI switch to FRAN, off. 5. Set the altitude source selector, hide CISI, to RHM. This will ensure the radar altimeter is used as the primary altitude source, which has a more accurate reading at low altitudes. 6. Set current altimeter pressure, QFE. QFE is the air pressure at the target point. It's used by the computer to calculate the distance between the aircraft and the target by triangulation, when the radar is not able to measure the distance. Read the QFE of the target on the kneeboard, located on waypoint B4, M4, and set the altimeter to that air pressure. Press spacebar to continue. Good, the gun pods are now ready to use. The weapons range is in front of us. The gun strafing pits are at the southern side of the range. Select one of the 3 available pits and align to make a pass over it. Now that you are near the target point, I will describe the procedure for firing the gun pods in general. The figures show the gun attack profile that the Viggen was designed to employ. 1. Master mode, set to ANF, attack, do it now. The HUD now displays the attack symbology, with a small ring being superimposed on the target point, this being the target indicator ring, tier. 2. Once near the target, you will have to pull up to an altitude of at least 500 meters above ground level. When at the top of the climb, throttle back to idle, then start a dive to acquire visually the tier. 3. During the dive, steer the aircraft to align the reticle dot with the tier. Once the tier and the reticle dot are aligned, check that radar ranging is being performed. A fin should be visible above the reticle dot. 4. Once the dot reticle is on the target and stable, set the trigger to unsafe by clicking on the stick safety cover. This will mark the target and provide more accurate ranging information. The tier should disappear. 5. Keep the reticle dot on the target. The distance line will flash 2 seconds before the firing point is reached. 6. 2 wings will appear on the sides of the reticle dot, half a second before the firing point. Press and hold the weapon release trigger to fire your guns. 7. Once you have performed your strafing run, pull up at 5G and, if you still have ammunition left, turn to the left and go back east, to make another pass over the targets. Unfortunately, the Viggen's gun pods do not have an ammunition counter, so you can't be sure if there is ammo left or not. Press spacebar to unpause the mission and put this procedure into practice. Wait until the message rolling in on gun targets appears, and then initiate your gun attack profile, as we shown earlier. Perform the dive, keeping the dot reticle over the selected strafing pit, unsafe the gun, and fire by pressing the stick's trigger. First strafing pass done. Turn left to go back around and perform another pass. Try to hit a different target, if possible. Start climbing back to at least 500 meters AGL. Second strafing pass done. Turn left and back around, and perform another pass. Start climbing back to at least 500 meters AGL. Third pass. Turn left and back around to perform another pass. Start climbing back to at least 500 meters AGL. Fourth pass. If you still have ammunition, turn left and back around to perform another pass over the targets. Else, turn right towards waypoint B5 to return to town. Start climbing back to at least 500 meters AGL. Good pass. If out of ammo, turn right towards waypoint B5 to return to Tonopah. Else, you may attempt another strafing pass. Start climbing back to at least 500 meters AGL. Deactivate the armament with this short procedure. 1. Set trigger to safe by clicking on the stick's safety cover. 2. Set master mode to nav and resume flight towards B5. Good. This completes the weapons disarm procedure. You can check your range results by calling up the communications menu. Select F10, Other, then select F1, Range. Finally, click F1, My Strafing Results. You have completed the main subject of this training mission. Press spacebar if you want to fly back and land at Tonopah, or press backspace to end the training now. Okay, you have chosen to proceed and practice a landing at Tonopah Air Base. Continue straight ahead until you reach waypoint B5 of our flight plan. Once you reach waypoint B5, turn right towards waypoint L1, Tonopah Air Base. Make sure the radio is tuned to preset 17, which corresponds to Tonopah's ATC, then press your PTT binding to request landing clearance. On the communications menu select F5, ATC. F1, Tonopah test range. F1, inbound.
Springfield 1-1.
The tower
inbound.
will answer with the heading and distance to its landing approach point, which we will ignore since we are already past that point, but it will also inform which runway they have assigned. It should be runway 14. Press F12 to clear the communications menu. Press spacebar once you receive the ATC's answer. Once you get nearer the airbase, ATC will ask you to contact tower. At that point press PTT again, and then select F1, Request Landing. Set master mode to land Ning Nav, and begin a shallow descent towards the runway. Reduce throttle and extend the air brakes if necessary, to reduce speed to 600 km per hour, in order to extend the landing gear. Once under 600 km per hour, lower the landing gear. Retrim the aircraft as needed, increase throttle to compensate for the gear drag. Arm the thrust reverser, lower the HUD, raise the seat, and set the landing light switch to its landing position, full forward. Once near the runway, the HUD automatically enters landing mode, with the symbology dropping 3 degrees below the horizon. Change the master mode to land Ning PO, to have a more decluttered HUD. Do it now. Align the dot with the FPM and with the desired touchdown point, keep the FPM slightly above the glide line, for a soft touchdown.
Springfield 1-1. Cleared for visual. Contact tower. Springfield 1-1. Request landing. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1. 1-1.
On touchdown, move the throttle back to idle, and lower the nose. The thrust reverser will activate when the nose will touches the ground. Not a normal procedure, but on this mission bring the aircraft to a complete halt, while still on the runway. At that point, we will present you with a landing distance report. Disable the thrust reverser by pushing the handle. The green light above it should go out. After you get the landing distance report, increase throttle and exit the runway at the first available exit, to the left. This is taxiway Delta. Proceed forward, towards the ramp. Perform the following steps after leaving the runway. Master mode selector. Set to position BER. Taxi landing lights, set to taxi, at its full back position. Radar altimeter, set to off, Fran. Identification friend-foe transponder, set to off, Fran. This step is optional, as on DCS the IFF is not simulated. This completes the after landing procedure. Press spacebar to finish the training.